Good morning, everybody. Tema Hassan. I'm the product manager for Zayo. I look after the IP services. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about some of the infrastructure work, some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes at Zayo. I've got some colleagues who are speaking at ITW this week about our infrastructure, and also at Submarine Networks later on this month as well. So Zayo, we're an fiber infrastructure business. We've got, this is a map of our network. We've got lots of fiber assets, mainly across North America. We're the largest independent fiber operator in North America. In Europe, we're more familiar with our flap ring and our fiber assets across the UK and France and stuff. And it was here I also wanted to try and talk about some of our infrastructure projects and really what goes on behind the scenes. And in doing some of the research with this, talking to my colleagues, I uncovered a number of stories, and including things such as abandoned cars being parked over our splice chambers you can't get access to for support. And another case where we had some duct and some splice chambers down a certain piece of road, and a local council just came and decided to just come and tarmac straight over the road, including our splice chambers. And hearing a number of stories like this. And but a lot of the material I gained was recently all around about our Zeus cable, which connects the UK over to the Netherlands. And so this is what I wanted to talk about, some of the stuff that went on behind the scenes about our new Zeus cable. So this is our new cable. It crosses the channel from Norfolk over to the Netherlands. I think it was the first subsea cable that Zayo had undertaken in just over 12 years or so. It took about 2 years to plan or so, and even longer behind that with the design work going on as well. And I think the planning kicked off around 2020, and it finally went live sometime late last year in 2022. But the key to the build of all of this was down to timing, because it's an underwater cable. There's only a certain period, a window of opportunity that we have to actually lay this cable in the sea. As we know, these seas are not the most friendliest in the water, and if we look in some of the vicinity, it's also some of the busiest. And we can see this, our Zeus cable is one. I think it's this blue one here. We've got others in the area. This blue one here, this is the Xers. We've got, I think this is BT, one of BT's at the top. BT have got another one down here. Neil can probably correct me afterwards on this. And this big purple one that's coming along here, I think this is Lumen's AC1 that comes in. So it's a busy old area. And on top of that, it's also one of the world's busiest shipping lanes as well. So it's not the easiest place to lay a subsea cable. As I said, the project was all done around about timing, and everything had to be planned to fit within a certain window of opportunity to lay this cable, which can only be done mainly during the summer months. You cannot do this during the winter. So there's a lot of project planning that goes on behind the scenes in order to do this. And if anything went wrong with the planning, if anything missed or got slipped, you had to drop the whole thing and get it pushed out by an entire another year. Now, from a commercial aspect, that has lots of implications. So there was an immense planning just to get it all done to make sure that we hit the right window with the right opportunity. So we had the people, we had the project managers on board, we had everything lined up, we had all of the contractors ready out, everything was all ready to go. So some of the history behind of this and why we did this. This is called a Sumwing beam trawl. This was introduced to the fishing community around about 2010. Now, it was a new piece of fishing equipment they used to catch the fish around the seas in our area. And as you can see, it's got this nice hydrodynamic fin, and it's got the foil, and it was meant to save quite a bit of fuel with the fishing communities and be a lot more sustainable for them. But if you notice this rather large 3 meter plus fin right at the very front, as it gets dragged through the water. Now, technically, this thing is meant to hover above the seabed, about a meter or so above the seabed, and gets dragged along and catches all the fish. Although it doesn't always hover. Sometimes it does actually get dragged along the seabed. And there's probably a lot of operators here who have unfortunately seen the consequences of what happens when these things get dragged along the seabed as well. And we've all felt the impact of this on our networks as well. So this is one of the reasons in part of the planning and design that we did with our subsea cable. And as a consequence, the subsea cable is actually now buried completely end to end by about 2 to 3 meters. And this is one of the driving things behind that. There are other things with the planning as well, in the planning stage, things that we just had no idea that will come and blindside us during this. So early on, during the planning stage, the cable landing station on the Netherlands side, we started receiving notices about planning that either needed to be postponed or changed or redeveloped and stuff. And this was one of the reasons why. Sometime in the spring 2020, the FIA suddenly announced that they were going to return to the Netherlands and have a Formula One racetrack in Zandvoort. Great for the local area, great for the local community, but why did it impact us? This is the reason why. The Zandvoort Formula One track is right next to the beach. And a cable landing station is actually very close by as well. So all of the planning that we wanted to do with the shoring vessels and the administration to gain access and the restrictions to clear the beach for our cable landing and stuff, all had to be completely replanned. And this was actually, luckily for us, this happened quite earlier on, so we actually could plan around it. But with the FIA coming in, and because of such a close vicinity, they had a wide-ranging reach of what could be done, what could not be done in the local area. So these are one of the things that you just did not expect things to happen. And again, we're still trying to work to a certain window to deliver this cable as well. So the planning stuff all went well. So now everything is all planned. So now we've got all the contractors involved, and now we get to the actual survey. Now, before the actual cable can be laid along the seabed, the ship's got to go out and actually survey the seabed itself. And they do like this quite a wide trench, and they do it from end to end, from land to land, and it's done in a very, very minute detail, highly detailed survey of the seabed. So you can actually know what's down there, what obstacles are in the way, what pipes are in the way, other cables, other unknown stuff. Now remember, there's not just subsea cables as well down there, there's oil and gas down there as well. And there's things like this we have to remember going on. So the survey is a very detailed thing. But there's other things that you forget that's also down there as well. I don't know if you can quite see that on the picture. This picture shows a 500 kilo UXO. This is a new term that I learned when doing this research. This is an unexploded ordnance on the seabed. Now, given the geography, we're familiar with the situation. This was not unexpected. These things were expected. We expected to find this sort of thing during the survey. And what was reported was actually during the survey, they actually found out there was a lot more than they found along the way. And again, back to the planning, everything hinges on getting this cable laid. Everything's on the planning. You've got to get it in within this certain window. And when you're up against something like this, there's not a lot you can do. And you have to there's only one thing you can do about it. You call in the Navy. And you have to get the Navy in to get rid of it. And it's exactly what had to happen. I can't remember whether it was the British Navy or the Dutch Navy on this, but it's essentially what you had to do. The ordnance is in the way, you've just got to get rid of it, got to get cleared, get it out of the way. So the survey was done, plans and laid, and then finally we can actually get to the deployment of the stage. So the ships are booked, the ships are contracted, the cable is bought. This is the actual cable that went down. This is the code along the ship. On the right-hand side, I believe this is what they call the trenching rover. It actually goes down onto the seabed. It actually does the trench as well, puts the cable down in the trench along the sea floor. Now, I didn't actually realise, and again, this was explained to me during my research, is that the actual sea cable is done not completely from end to end. They actually stop around about 5 or 10 kilometres out to sea with the actual wet cable. And then there's a separate specialist team, a shoring vessel that comes out and connects the cable and brings it up onto the land at one end, and same at the other end. It's a very different, very specialist teams. So this was actually done out on the wet portion as well. As I said, so when it comes to the land, this is the separate teams that come in. And again, you probably see on LinkedIn and typical corporate photos and stuff where people coming in and holding it up, doing the big corporate photos, saying, "Yeah, we've landed our cable." But yeah, this is the shoring team, or the shoring vessel as it's called, bringing the cable onto land. There's not actually many of these teams available to us. As we know, there's lots of brand new sea cables being laid at the moment. The rate of increase of these cables is phenomenal at the moment. So actually trying to make sure that we can get these teams and hire these teams at the right time when we need them was fairly tricky. And then when actually in the cable landing station as well, once the cable is all pulled in, it then has to be terminated. Again, dedicated specialist teams that were involved in this, putting up the fibre and actually getting it all plumbed into the cable landing station as well. I think this one was this was on the lowest offside, this team I got the photos from. So there's an awful lot that goes on with the laying in the cable. So many teams involved, so many contractors involved, and everything. And it's hard to imagine just how much is involved and how many teams are doing this sort of this. And I need to highlight some of the teams involved. The project managers running this project. It's not just one guy, it's a whole team of project managers for this sort of thing. The number of people involved is absolutely immense. And the project managers running everything, getting the boats organised, getting the teams organised, talking to the legal teams, getting the finance arranged, that sort of thing. All our OSP, our outside plant teams, they're the ones looking after the boat vessels and the cable fibre manufacturers and stuff. But then there's a lot of unsung heroes who also happen right behind the scenes, especially with the legal. The legal teams, we had to enter into 17 different contracts just to do this cable or so. The main cable, not just for the laying the main cable, it's the shoring vessels, it's the shoring teams, it's the fibre splicers at each end. And then there's the health and safety consultants that had to be involved, health and safety on the land, health and safety consultants for the underwater teams. And there's a whole specialist insurance that goes around this as well. Did I mention the oil and gas earlier on as well? We're digging that, we have to lay in the cable across oil and gas. Anything happens to the oil and gas, and there's big consequences as well. So it's some really specialist insurance that have to go on in there as well. And of course, I felt the need I had to call out the exec and biz dev teams, because they're the ones who put the business case together. They're the ones who champion this project for our customers. You have to remember, the London to Amsterdam route is probably one of the most popular routes in Europe for bandwidth. The sheer level of bandwidth that we transmit along this route, not just for public internet, but for private networks as well. And our customers are at the very heart of this project. We had to get this right. There was no other way. And at the end, there was over 40 people at Zayo who pretty much dedicated 2 years of their lives, near enough, over COVID as well, to actually getting this project done. And there's so much more that goes on behind the scenes. And I just wanted to have this opportunity just to share that from the Zayo perspective, we don't get a chance to talk about subsea cables in our community here in the UK. There's not many opportunities that happen, especially that have a direct impact on the bandwidth that we transmit around our networks from the UK to the rest of the world. So I hope I've been able to try and give you guys a little bit more of insight of what goes on behind the scenes in some of our infrastructure projects. And with that, thank you very much.